Welcome to the Los Angeles International Film Festival. Welcome everyone. So we have a fantastic panel today. We will be talking about film financing, and we have excellent guests with us today. We have Dave Thomas, Robert Enriquez, Tony Armour, and Hal Kessler. So welcome everyone.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So just to start off, if you're able to just tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are, and how you're involved with film and particularly with financing or the projects that you've been working on.
So who do you want to start with?
Would you, Corky?
Yeah, do you want to start with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hi, this is Hal Corky Kessler, and I have been very involved in the film industry. I've been the attorney and executive producer on 22 movies with 20 more. I've been a speaker during Sundance, Cannes, and Toronto, now the LA Film Festival, and we're doing panels for Sundance virtually on January 30th. And I was very active in getting one of the biggest incentives for film, television, and now theater, 181. That's going to end in 2 months, and films can be grandfathered, and I can talk about that, and I can talk about 168G that's going to go on till the end of 2022, and give an example how if you use the incentive, a good state incentive, and do your post in Canada, you can guarantee your investor a recovery of their money of 75 cents on every dollar that's invested.
Okay, excellent. So we'll hear a bit more about that in a bit. Thanks, Corky. So Robert, tell us a bit about what you do.
Okay, thank you, Natasha. My name is Robert Enriquez, and I'm the owner-operator of a company called Red Baron Management. We're primarily a talent management company, but when I started this, I broke off from being an agent so that I could continue to produce and make movies. Not that agencies aren't doing that as well, but that was the main focus at the time. So I've been doing this for just about 20 years, primarily doing independent equity financing of independent features. Now we're doing a lot more packaging in the world of television.
Interesting, fantastic. Tony, tell us about what you do.
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Tony Armour, and I am the film commissioner in St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida. In addition to being the film commissioner here for the last 6 years, I'm an independent film producer who has put together financing and cast and all the packaging that you need to produce independent films, as well as being the founder of the Sunscreen Film Festival here in St. Pete, Florida, and we just wrapped up our 15th year for Sunscreen.
Wow, excellent. So, Dave, tell us about you.
Hi, thank you, Natasha. Pleasure to be here on the panel. I'm Dave Thomas. I am a New York entertainment attorney based in Cleveland. I primarily do movie deals. I do all the aspects from the legal perspective, a lot of continental European projects in addition to American indies, and I'm also a producer. Thank you.
Okay. What I found, I didn't tell before, although I should mention it, although it doesn't mean very much, is that 66,000 people voted me as the best entertainment lawyer and executive producer in the United States.
Brilliant. So
my dog voted me the best owner in my household just this week, so I'm going to take that credit as far as I can as well.
It's fake news, Tony. It's fake news.
Yeah.
I saw you, Tony. You posted some pictures of your dog. Looks very happy. So.
Yeah, she's a happy little pup.
Excellent. So, Tony, you're the film commissioner for St. Petersburg. I can't pronounce it. St. Petersburg Clearwater in Florida. So, tell us about the projects that you finance through that. What kind of stuff are you looking for when you get applications?
Yeah, so from the film commission perspective, it's, you know, just like any other state incentive that you could talk about. So the state of Florida does not have an incentive right now, but my county, Pinellas County, the 24 cities that I oversee, we have our own regional incentive. And so, you know, it's anything from Tim Burton's Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children to a couple of Hallmark Channel films, down to, you know, $100,000 low budget indie horror films. So we'll really work with all sorts of different projects that are interested in coming and filming in the area. And there's no minimum spend, no maximum spend on the incentive. But since there's no state film incentive here in Florida, what really makes the most sense are projects that are 2 million or under, because those are the ones that we can kind of have the most impact on. You know, you can kind of get the same bang for your buck shooting here as you would in Georgia or Louisiana or somewhere else with a larger incentive. But because of our great locations and resources and everything, the cash rebate that we have, you know, works out for projects in that budget range, essentially.
Mm-hmm. So is there a specific criteria that you look for, or is it just dependent on each individual project itself?
Yeah, we take a look at each individual project, you know, on its own merits, basically, and see what it is and what they're looking to do and kind of what resources we can, you know, we can supply. And you know, the incentive is a 10% cash rebate, so it's not a huge amount. But like I said, if it's 2 million or under, and the fact that you can, you know, Florida's a right to work state, so depending on your budget level, you can go union, you can go non-union, combination of union or non-union. Having minimal to, you know, no location fees and no permit fees, and a variety of other things that make it, you know, basically affordable to shoot projects in that budget range here. But the projects, it can be really just about anything within reason, you know.
Okay, so I get calls every week to help people, or people ask me to get funding for their film, and I tell the people I don't disclose my funding sources unless they are clients of mine, and most of them say, well, we already have an attorney, and I say to them, ask your attorney to find money for you, because I don't disclose them until I get hired. But more importantly, I'm doing a project with Rudy Langless now, who's an Academy Award producer, who did Hotel Wanda, Hurricane, Sugar Hill, and Redemption. We're doing a movie called Miles and Me. It's the last stage of Miles Davis' life. It's with Denzel Washington and with 2 other Academy Award winning people. And we're going to start production in March. It's going to be New York based. It's a 35% incentive, and with the incentive and with the federal incentives under 181, and with doing your post in Canada, the investors will be in a profit of $2 million because of the pre-sales.
So, Corky, just explain to us a little bit more about 181. How does it work?
Okay. 181, Section 181 was part of the American Jobs Creation in 2014. And it's been extended, and it's predicated on spending, not investing. And in the year or years that the money is spent, it's 100% loss. And I've wiped out over 250 people's federal taxes so far. So spending, you can expense up to $15 or $20 million per project. There's no floor. It can be $100 movie, could be $1 movie. And when you have these films that qualify under 181, it gives the investor an advantage because it directly affects their federal taxes. Now, since there's only 2 months left in 181, Natasha, to be grandfathering projects, and I'm grandfathering a lot of projects. And once you're grandfathered for life. There's no end date. So as long as you get within the end of 12/31, you're going to be grandfathered, and there's, again, no end date. You can pick that up at any time to get investors. You need a screenplay or teleplay if it's a television. You need a summary budget. You're going to need 1 day of photography with some dialogue from the screenplay or teleplay. And you need the investor documents prepared, but you don't need investors. And all of those are fluid in the reason that after you're grandfathered, they can be changed, but you have to have them in the LLC filed. You have to have all that before the end of 2020.
Okay, so what about the team? Do you have to have a team in place?
No, you don't have to have a team in place. You just have to make sure that you are grandfathered. But there's another incentive called 168G, G as in girl, that came under the Trump tax bill, and that goes into effect and stays until the end of 2022 with all principal parts. It follows 181 rules, but the difference in this, and there's no budget situation. You can go up to any amount. There's no ceiling. But the difference is this, it has to be put in service. That's theater, film, or television. That means it has to be shown before the end of 2022. And at the end of that year, it's 100% loss, because at the end of 2022, the 100% loss becomes 80% in 2023, and then 60%, and then 40%, and then 20%, and then 0. So the difference between 181 and this is 181 is much easier. Spending, it never has to be distributed. 168G, it doesn't take effect until it's shown.
Excellent. So Robert, tell us a bit about when you're packaging projects and when you've worked together with different people putting together different packages. What do you look for that's important to put into that package?
Okay. I guess generally speaking, it's not only from the hip, you're right, you immediately want to usually say the biggest name possible, but that's not always going to work with every script. So you want it to make sense to the script and what that budget's going to be. And we're doing a lot of that juggling right now, where I'm dealing with much smaller scripts, but we have a pretty big talent pool because so many people haven't been working. So we're getting some larger names that are used to making much larger money. So it's trying to juggle this whole balancing act of how to make it all make sense. But another thing now that's coming into the equation quite a bit, see, we're all men on this panel pretty much, but I'm getting things. It's like, all you need to do is just bring us a female director, just bring us a female producer, and then they're willing to take you a couple more steps forward than if I go in with a package with just say Tony and another gentleman. It's just, they're looking for a lot of female directors right now, packaging that with a lot of mixed ethnicity, a lot of ethnicity on the talent side, as well as female. So it's definitely interesting in seeing that transition where I could go in with a script at say 500,000 with a Brendan Fraser, who you're like, oh, he's kind of a big name, he's led huge movies, but they'd rather see someone of ethnicity. It's very interesting right now in this time with the packaging, but that's one of the big things that we're dealing with right now, is just mixing it up a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Tony, is that something that you've seen as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously the industry is rightfully so making a push towards adding diverse voices and, having lots of representation within the films. And so when it comes to packaging projects, it's good to be a woman right now. They're looking for female directors and producers and, a diversity of talent. So I'm seeing that and getting asked for it a lot in projects that I've packaged and put together.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Rodriguez that now it's a lot easier to get talent. A lot of my clients are looking for females to bring in, and it is all about a good story and the right team put together and packaging it. And there's a lot of money out there. There is a lot of money to go out there. It's just now with COVID, you have to be concerned with how you protect the people going forward short term. We're not like Tyler Perry, who can bring them all in his studio and make its own bubble there, because they can't leave the studio until the film's out. They check their temperature and they see if they have the virus. daily, and so we have to be very careful. But I mean, projects are still being made. I know Netflix is really looking for a lot of projects, so I've been talking to them. But it's a very good time now to sit back and think when COVID's over, or basically over, that you're ready to go forward with several projects.
Yeah, I agree. Really important time to be putting projects together. So Dave, tell us a little bit more about the projects that you come to work on. What is it about the projects that spark your interest to be involved?
Well, first of all, the panel may be all male, but the female is the head of the panel, Natasha. So thank you for running.
Right. Fearless leader.
I've always had a soft spot for art films, which basically are not as commercial as, say, some of the genre picks. But I've also been fortunate enough to work with people such as Academy Award winner Veit Hajduška. And he's taught me a lot out of Vienna. He's Michael Haneke. They won the Academy Award for Amour a few years ago. But Veit is, in addition to being a great gentleman, he's a great teacher. So I've tried to kind of bridge the gap between the American models and the European models, where, like Corky mentioned, there's the tax incentives from the federal tax code here, but in Europe they have a different type of financing model, which is based on a combination of national, state/provincial, and local style type of financing. For instance, if you're in France, you can get a French, you can get a whatever the province that Paris is in, or you can get a Paris city financing, like from Film Arts, for instance.
It's 25% in Paris, David, but the good thing about our incentive is 25% of the service wages in a budget can be performed and paid in any foreign country. So we're shopping for where we're going to spend the other 25%.
Which I think that's why when you mentioned doing the posts in Canada, it's similar to the European model, where if you do the post in Germany or the post in Bulgaria, you're getting those additional incentives as well. So I like that aspect that I'm seeing here in the US. So what I look for, Natasha, is I try to, when I represent a person that usually comes to me, they come as a writer, my first advice to them is, you're not a writer, you're a producer. Because if you're a writer, you're the first guy thrown under the rug. And my great example is my good friend, dear friend, Gary Nadeau, who may be watching. Gary, back in the day, wrote the movie called Jack. And his initial deal called for him to direct it. But he was always, then he basically took the money and just was the writer. And he was always like, Dave, be the producer. And I'm like, that kind of makes sense. That makes sense to me a lot. So as a producer, you have more control over the project than being just simply a writer. So that's one of the first things I look for, is some person that's being talented. And thankfully, the industry is catching up to reality, which is that there are women, there are minorities, there's people of all ethnicities that have something to say, in addition to the more traditional films. So that's kind of like a long-winded, long answer to your short question, Natasha.
Great. So there's the whole range of different incentives and opportunities. Let's talk a little bit about co-production then. What are your experiences of co-productions with other countries or other areas?
Is this addressed to all of us?
All of you, yeah. if you have experiences.
Well,
I suppose it depends. It's go ahead, Corky.
The United States has no treaty with any other country but a soft treaty with Canada. So it's very hard for the United States to have co-production unless you bring in a partner from another foreign country that can do it. But if I'm in the United States and don't want to bring in a partner from another foreign country, except for Canada, it's virtually impossible to do co-production.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say something.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tony. Sorry.
That's okay. No, I was going to say something similar in that, in Europe, they're so used to hearing about co-productions because they have treaties between countries to do these different co-productions. But in the US, that doesn't exist. So it's really, if you are a European-based production and you want to shoot in the US, you want to shoot in Florida, you just get a local or a US-based production company, you work directly with them, and you still get the incentive for whatever your project is, shooting in whatever incentive area in the US, and you don't need a formal co-production treaty to be able to film.
Excellent. That's really good to hear.
One little benefit with the foreign partners, whether they're mostly European, is that you have a good access to the European talent via the European offices of, say, some of the bigger California, LA firms. And I find that those offices are more responsive to lower budget art films or something under a tentpole $100 million budget than, for instance, they would be if you're dealing with the LA office. So that you kind of have a back end into some of the better talent, no matter who it is.
Well, I always tell people that if the talent you're going after as a manager or an agent, both in the United States, and they also have a foreign one, Dave, I tell them, call the foreign one.
Yes, amen. Amen, Corky.
Yeah, call the foreign one, because they will always talk to you. And if you can convince them to speak to their client, then they can make it happen. But I bypass the American.
And the other good thing is unlike Natasha's lovely British accent, they'll understand our bad English and speak English as opposed to us speaking their foreign language, which is also another good benefit.
Oh, thank you very much, Dave. So let's get back to what goes into a package. So when someone is going out looking for finance or approaching different commissions, what kind of things should they already have in their package? What sort of things do people need to think about? And I suppose in your experience, there are certain pitfalls as well where people haven't done something that they really should have done.
Well, lately, I mean, in terms of the package, in terms of just looking for the cold finance, we're talking about the pitch decks and the Bibles and the other things of that nature, just leading into getting the finance. Then you have to have, I think, the bonds, completion bond, some type of avenue to get that. And in addition to your sales rep, which is a big component for your pre-sales, because that's what you want to put all together, and you may need some gap financing as well. So I think if you're laying all those out, if we're talking private equity, you want to lay all those out in addition to your the Corky 181 incentives, as well as the various state and or country incentives that you could kind of stack together. So I would suggest that obviously you're going to have the screenplay, you're going to have the Bible and the pitch deck and all of those things tight. And then you're also typically going to have some type of package that lays out the roles in the film with perhaps, the top 2 or 5 leads or supporting actors and actresses. I say actors, meaning that's like almost like gender non-specific. And then so you'd have, possibly your cast attachments there as well. And everyone, when you get the cast attachments, it's always, again, you need the director. So that's what you want to line up if you really want to get financed.
Yeah. And it's a little bit of a chicken or egg scenario too,
Right.
An investor won't sign on unless you've got particular things in place, and actors as well. The first question agent is going to ask is the film financed? And if you're able to put together soft money from a bunch of different sources, whether it's incentives in different areas for post-production and physical production, and then you have an investor who verbally or in writing has committed the money but not spent the money yet, you can say that you're financed. Because again, actors know that you want to use their name for pre-sales. And so there's that balance. You have to have the actors to get the pre-sales, but you've got to have, the financing to get the actors. And so it's a tough, road to go to kind of put all those pieces together in the right way so that you can get everything that you need.
And one other thing that Corky alluded to right now is that we're pitching a lot to Netflix and or HBO and the streamers. So that makes it a little bit easier for the finance, because you don't really necessarily have to have the chicken and the egg conundrum, because it's the same thing every time for as long as I've been around, and Corky's been around even longer. It's you have to, where's the money, but you don't have the money until you get the people, and you don't have the cast, and then you don't have the cast until you get the money. But with the streamers now, it's a little bit of a different deal where you could put together your team and then go in and pitch that way, and then the financing would come obviously in a slightly different way.
Okay, Dave, I have problems with people telling me that people are attached when they aren't. And
I do too.
and I have people tell me that they have this actor, and I say, what do you mean they're attached? And I say, no. A letter of intent does not attach them. I mean, you don't have an attachment unless you do. So I've come up with a conditional pay or play, which I've gotten talent to sign on. And principally it says, if you're Joe Blow, this is what I'm going to pay you. This is what your part is going to be. This is what your compensation is going to be. I'm not shopping it. You have got it. And this is the screenplay. This is who else is attached. And this is our tentative start time. And you've got it. It's a conditional pay or play, subject to us getting financing in 3 months. So most people who represent talent will give me, if they like the project, 3 months, knowing that their talent has it. Now, the worst part about it, let's say 3 months is coming and going, and you tell them that you need a couple more weeks and you show them that you got something, they'll give you an extension. But if 3 months comes and you don't have anything, the talent knows that they're not sitting there. I've drafted what's called conditional pay or play deals.
Yeah, that's a great move.
Robert, you've worked with actors on deals, on many different types of deals. So tell us a bit about your experience of these situations.
Well, one thing just to bring up again with this whole conditional pay or play, it's kind of interesting because now you almost have to do conditional pay or play because we don't know when we're going to be allowed to shoot and not shoot. So if you're crafty enough, I think a lot of people are, kind of sneaking in with not necessarily solid in the money offers, but they also know that, okay, these dates aren't probably going to stay the same, especially in California, because there's things shutting down and starting up all the time. And I've had people get shut down in Georgia recently too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that. It's like you can go in with an offer and make it seem pretty solid, but then at the same time, you can't be that solid because we don't know that it can be guaranteed. So it's a bit tricky in that world right now.
Yeah, but I think as much that is tricky, now's an opportunity, as you said, Robert, that people aren't getting offers, and not that they want to start it tomorrow, but if you get a good project, there are very few actors that won't come on board as long as you give them some ownership in the project. So they're banking on them coming in and making money, and they get their part owner, and they'll come in at a very low fee. But now's the best time. I don't like some of the agencies in the United States, in California. So at all time, I can get to talent. I personally can get to a lot of talent. And I work with some of the best casting directors there are. And if I can get a casting person to be excited, she can get interest from talent. So I think the first person to convince that you've got a viable project is find a good casting director. Because a friend of a casting director, probably the best friend you can get.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Corky. And I was, going to say that, maybe a lot of people that are watching this webinar are in a position where it's their first feature film they're trying to get together, or their second feature film, or it's a small budget project. And they have no idea how to get to cast. And, everybody keeps talking, well, attach your cast. I mean, just call them up, attach them kind of thing. But that's what I was going to say too, is casting director is vitally important. You got to have a little bit of development money in your pocket, whether you put it on your credit cards or you've got some money saved up or whatever it might be. Get an entertainment attorney, get a casting director, start with those two things, and then you can start putting all the pieces together that you need to package a project.
Yeah, it helps legitimize a lot more. And just from the management side, that's if an offer comes in and I know that it's not that solid, but they've got a casting director and maybe even an executive producer who's done a dozen projects, and I know they're not going to be involved at all, but he's let them put their name on it. At least it's something.
No, I don't do that. There are people that will contact me and tell me, I want you to send my project to Mr. Rodriguez. And I said, I won't, because I don't endorse your project, but Mr. Rodriguez knows me, and if I send him something, he'll think that I'm embracing it, that I think it's not merit. So I don't burn bridges. I don't send a project to anybody until, in my feeble mind, I decide that it's marketable. And people say, who are you? And I say, well, I'm the one to tell you that it's marketable in my mind. And I won't send it to people, because if I burn someone that I send it to, I won't accept it again.
Right.
Yeah, so Tony, you're a producer, and you also run the Sunscreen Film Festival, and I know, so Robert, you also run the Sunscreen Film Festival West edition. So how important is it in the financing stage, in the beginning of putting the project together, to think about later down the line festivals, distribution, and so on, sales?
Well, I think you should start with sales, casting director, attorney, and then of course a sales company is another thing you need to have early on. Festivals, I suppose it depends on the level of the film, what you're looking at for festivals. Do you want a Sundance or Toronto or wherever else it might be? That's a different animal than, a regional film festival, or, LA Film Festival or Sunscreen Film Festival, something like that. So, those are something you want in your plan. You want to be able to go and play festivals, but when it comes to the financing stage, it's not super important to know exactly what that is at the end, but the sales component is obviously a big part, because that's part of, having your pre-sales, and there's no movie if you can't sell it.
But if you go to your festival, Tony, and your movie's shown there, and the whole team goes to your festival, they're going to meet people, and they'd be surprised. They might meet people that want to finance a movie. They might be people that want to help them move their project forward. So don't minimize the region.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I didn't mean to minimize it from that perspective. No, I sort of built my career because of founding the film festival and everything I've done with the film festival over the years. And same thing, I have so many people I've met that at whatever festival I'm at, whether it's Cannes or Sunscreen or other smaller festivals or Toronto, whatever, across the country, that's where you meet the people that are going to participate with you in your films, whether it's, actors or directors or financiers, whatever it might be. Festivals are vitally important in the whole ecosystem of making movies. And, it's the old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And festivals is where you go to meet the who you knows.
So I was fortunate. Last year, I had a movie of mine at Sundance, at Berlin, at Cannes, and at Toronto. I had a world premiere. But I tell you, I almost enjoy going to the regional film festivals and talking to the people outside of these big film festivals. In fact, Tony, if you want to come on our panel, we're doing a festival team at the Sundance virtual panel. Let me know, because it's only going to be talking about festivals. So I'd love to have you on that. But yeah, I mean, look, you're lucky to get your film into any film festival.
Yeah.
And the audience that's attracted, look, Telluride, great film festival, but it's not a buyer's film festival. It's only for the audience, and that's right before the Toronto Film Festival. So I know people who they're not in the business, but they love going to Telluride, because they could see the movies there 3 weeks before they're in Toronto. The amazing thing is, I hope Cannes is live in May, because we have our villa on hold, and we have one of the biggest pajama parties at our villa.
Great party there, Corky.
Did you come?
Oh yeah.
I was there last year as well. Natasha, you were there too, weren't you?
Yes.
Everyone but you, Robert. You missed out.
350 people came to our villa 2 years ago to it, and I figured this: Cannes is so dressy that we would dress it down. So Dave DeBoard and someone else said to me, let's do a pajama party. I said, good idea. Let's have something at Cannes, which is so dressy, where people dress down. And I couldn't believe 350 people came to our villa for a pajama party. And Cannes, in its newsletter, said that if you didn't go to Corky's pajama party, you missed the best event that Cannes has ever had. So too bad we haven't had it last year, and we hope to have it again next year.
Yeah, hopefully we can go. So final advice then from each of you. What would be your top tip for a filmmaker trying to get financing for a project to get it off the ground? Robert, let's start with you.
But that was clipping out a bit. I didn't really catch the question. Sorry.
What's your top tip for people trying to get a project off the ground?
I guess the very top tip I would say is have a good script is the most important thing. It's just because there's so many writers, and for someone who reps writers too, and I see the ones that have successful careers, they're the ones that are willing to take notes and take their beatings. You got to be willing to listen to people, especially if you're lucky enough to get someone like a couple of people in this panel who've got great experience. If someone's willing to read your script and give you comments, you can't just shoo that and poo that. So you have to listen. And I think that's the main thing from where they're coming from, especially with the newer writers, just making sure you spend the time on those pages. Don't think you're just going to turn in that first draft and have a home run every time.
My one piece of advice is find one person who believes in your project, if that person can move it forward. You want to bring people on your side, and each one can help moving it forward. So find the first person, then find the second, then find the third. But the first person you get should have someone who knows enough people that if it's a marketable, good project, can help beginning to move it forward.
Yeah. Tony, what are your thoughts?
Well, definitely what Robert said, script. You don't have a project unless you've got a good script. Take the time to make sure you've got a good script. But beyond that, one thing that I like to tell people a lot is, because again, I talk to a lot of beginning filmmakers or new filmmakers who just have no idea where to start. It's don't BS people. If you don't know what you don't know, don't lie and say that you know this person or know that person, or you have these things in place. If it's just you and a good script, but you don't know where to go, just be honest with people and, take, like Corky said, step by step, one thing at a time, to put your pieces together and learn what you don't know to move in the right direction. Because, once people realize, or if you've lied to them, or you said something that's untrue or whatever, they're like, I really don't want to work with that person. I don't really care how good their script is. There's 100 other scripts I can find out there.
Good advice. Dave, do you have anything to add?
I would say call me immediately. No, that's not my first. I agree with the script 100%. My advice is that you need to get a small team of people together and be loyal from the beginning. Get somebody that's going to go with you the whole way here. So if you start switching horses, no matter what the role is, it just destroys things, especially if you're a first-time filmmaker. Get a small, devoted team, then you'll add the right pieces moving forward.
Dave, do I know you?
Yes, you do, Corky. Well, why am I telling you if you know me?
What?
I'm haunting you in the middle of your dreams. The medium is the massage, don't forget, like McLuhan says.
All right. Dave, contact me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone for being on this panel today. Very, very interesting to hear all your thoughts. And thank you for everyone who was watching as well. And I hope everyone takes care, and see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.